In this video, we will talk about plant classification. So, um, I'm not sure if I still memorize the flow chart, but basically we have non-vascular plants uh, and vascular plants. There are non-vascular plants that are seedless, and there are those that bear seed. And we have gymnosperms and angiosperms. So that's basically the things that we will talk about in this video. So moss, or in other words, bryophyte, um, it has a non-vascular structure. So basically, there are no roots, no stems, no leaves, and hence they are small in size. They reproduce by spores, not seeds. Therefore, they're not. Basically, they're seedless, and yeah. So because they reproduce by spores, they produce spore capsules uh, on sporophytes. So sporophytes are basically the elevated part of the plant. So what's the habitat? Where do they live? Basically, they live in moist forests and arid deserts, places where there is high humidity and low light intensity. So divisions, we have Bryophyta, mosses, Anthocerophyta, hornworts, and Marchantiophyta, liverworts. All of these, what they have in common is that they are all non-vascular. Okay, so ferns. In other words, they're called pteridophytes. They bear no flowers, they bear no fruits. Uh, they have a vascular structure, unlike mosses, and they are big in size, therefore. Uh, Usually, these things go along together. If a plant has a vascular structure, they're usually bigger. But if they don't have a vascular structure, they're smaller. So what do I mean about vascular structure? Basically, the presence of a phloem and xylem. Instead of diffusion, um, basically, if a plant has a vascular structure, they are able to carry out water transport and nutrient transport in a larger scale operation. So yeah, that explains why usually vascular plants are bigger, because they're not limited to only needing to undergo diffusion in order to survive and carry out everyday ways of living, I guess. I think that's how you describe it. I mean, definitely there's a better way to describe what I'm trying to mean. So yes, they reproduce using spores, not seeds. And yes, they spread the spores via air or water. So where do they live? Usually damp environments, so that they could keep the water in. So for the pteridophyte, we have ferns, horsetails, and club mosses. Usually horsetails and club mosses are used as herbal medicines. Another feature that is innate in ferns is the presence of fronds. They are large leafy structures. Okay, let's go to gymnosperms and angiosperms. So for gymnosperms, they have a vascular structure, a phloem and a xylem. Uh, so basically, they transport the cells of stems, and they reproduce by exposed seed or ovule. So majority are born in cones. These cones are invisible until maturation. So what does a sporophyte mean? So it's a part of the gymnosperm where the reproductive structures are created. And the naked seeds, they are not coated within an ovary or fruit. That's why they're called naked. They're described as naked. Um, so we have four divisions of extant gymnosperms: Pinophyta, Zygotophyta, Ginkgophyta, and Gnetophyta. So I believe under Ginkgophyta, division Ginkgophyta, there's only one species, That's the ginkgo biloba, if you're familiar with that plant. It's the only species under that division, so it's pretty unique. Cycads, ornamental plants. Ginkgo, antioxidant, broadleaves. Um, so what's the microstrobili? Basically, they're called, uh, it's defined as the male pollen cones with reduced leaves called microsporophylls. So the microsporangia is located below the microsporophylls, and they contain cells that undergo meiotic division in order to produce the haploid microspores. So let's move to angiosperms. So angiosperms, they have a vascular structure: roots, stems, leaves, xylem, phloem. They can bear fruits, flowers, and seeds. They have a color, shape, and a smell, and these are factors that contribute to their ability to be attractive to pollinators. So, how about seeds? They basically develop in fertilized ovaries in order to produce fruits and water-related species. Uh, so we have Louisiana magnolia trees for dicots. But I'm not sure though, because trees usually are under gymnosperms because they're usually bigger. Angiosperms are mostly flowers, if not everyone under it. For monocots, we have orange daylily. Okay, so more on the gymnosperm and angiosperm. How do we differentiate the two? So these are summarized points. So first, gymnosperms are non-flowering plants. Angiosperms, they are flowering. For gymnosperms, they have a reproductive system in cones, but for angiosperms, instead, they are in flowers. For gymnosperms, they have naked seeds, or basically they're unenclosed, they're exposed. But for angiosperms, the seed is enclosed within an ovary. That's the reason why, for instance, in an apple tree, uh, fruits house the seeds. So, yeah. For gymnosperms, they usually have needle-like leaves, but for angiosperms, they have flat leaves. Gymnosperms, if you hear the term evergreen, that goes under gymnosperm. For angiosperms, they have plants undergo a seasonal life cycle. So I suppose it has something to do with the change of color every season. If it's winter, if it's autumn, if it's spring, if it's summer, something like that. But for gymnosperms, I guess they don't change color, among other things. Um, Gymnosperms have a haploid tissue. For angiosperms, they have a triploid tissue. And for gymnosperms, they are only pollinated by one factor, the wind. Unlike angiosperms, they are pollinated by many factors, uh, animals, wind, and water. Uh, the number, the higher tendency for uh, pollination among angiosperms explains why they are more diverse. Actually, they are the most diverse compared to gymnosperms, mosses, pteridophytes, the other plants that I mentioned earlier, except angiosperms. Um, and yes, gymnosperms are softwood, angiosperms are hardwood, classified as hardwood. One thing that I'm a little reluctant about is since usually bigger plants are under gymnosperms, why are they classified as softwood? I'm not certain in that regard. Anyways, next video will be about diversity in animals. Thanks for watching.